Okay, I am back. My phone froze and I don't know why. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. I'm just going to go ahead and get started right away. Hopefully you were with me on the last one and caught my introduction and what we talked about in part one. So let's talk about the teaching point. That's what I was about to get to. So I have some tips for you about the teaching point. Sorry if you're like, what are you talking about? Where were you earlier? Okay, so the teaching point. Were you all here earlier? I don't know if I'm talking to new people or okay, so if you didn't catch the first part, watch the replay. So your teaching point, about the scopes on my blog. Yeah, I have all of the replays are on iteachtvnetwork.com under writing workshop. If you just go to that website, they're all there. I think I have 12 or 13. And then you can also see my blog. I blog about each periscope. Okay, so here are my tips for be consistent. So after you hook your kids in and you grab them and they're like on the edge of their seats, and I talked about that last week. So if you want tips for that, for your hook, after you've given your hook, you always want to be consistent so that the kids know, okay, this is the key piece of information that you need. Today you will learn. And you want to be really short and sweet, or my tip for the day is, and you say that every single time for your teaching point. And so I actually have some examples of teaching points. So based on Common Core standards on my website. So for example, this one says this is a standard, introduce claims and organize the reasons with evidence. So then I broke that down, and you always want to explain, okay, what's the skill and how are they going to do that skill today? Today you will learn that when creating a claim for an argumentative essay, you read lots about the topic. So notice how specific I am. This is what you do. You read. You can't write an argumentative essay without doing research and reading a ton, right? And then the next mini lesson would be, when creating a claim for an argumentative essay, you think deeply by asking lots of questions about what you've learned. Okay, I teach pre-K, so how could you break this down for pre-K? Yeah, that might take a little thought on my part about how to make this relevant for pre-K. I don't know if anyone has any ideas in the comments. When creating a claim for the lowest I've ever taught is 3rd grade. So if anyone teaches those lower grades and you teach like persuasive writing, I mean, you should be teaching those skills in those lower grades. Maybe just forming like sentences like about their opinions. So which is best, cookies or cake? And then having them, I'm totally getting off topic right now, but having them maybe write a sentence and maybe reading some things about cookies and cakes, and then using that information to back up their reasoning or their claim. That was just like off the top of my head idea for you that teach pre-K. Terrible twos. Yeah. Oh my gosh. My baby is almost 2 and she has so many opinions. Okay. So you can probably read this. When creating a claim for an argumentative essay, you think deeply, you notice similarities and differences about what you read. And creating a claim is really challenging even for adults. So, I have some examples of teaching points that you can use. So I basically look at the standard and I think, okay, what's the skill and how are they going to reach that skill? So the teaching point really has to focus in on the how. The how is super important, and try and be really clear and to the point and in kid language. Try not to use too many big words. Try and maybe even test it on a kid. Read it out loud to one of your kids and say, what do you think I mean by this? And ask them what they think. That can really be helpful. So you can visit Amanda right now to get these for yourself. I might write more of these. You never know. Be consistent. Include only key words, but the action, will your students meet the skill? Don't be too wordy. And then have the kids write the teaching point down or read it out loud with you. Okay, so that's all about the teaching point. Let's talk about modeling. Like, how do you model during your mini lesson? So I have multiple ways. So thinking aloud. So a lot of teachers do this. So they'll like write under a document camera, and then they're thinking and they're talking about what's going on in their mind, and then the kids are like responding. Like, you might ask a question, but you're asking it to yourself, and then the kids are like raising their hands. And so I think it's really important that if you're using that way of modeling, that you say something to the kids like, okay, students, you're going to be completely silent while you listen to what's going on in my mind. Do not respond during this time, because this is just me thinking to myself. And so just being really clear that when you ask a question and it's like mind time, you could even call it mind time, your teacher's mind time. And so I don't want any hands. I don't want any comments. You're just watching me as I struggle with writing, because we all struggle with writing. Okay, sentence stems are another way to model with your kids. So this is actually a chart that I created for my students. So like sentence stems for them to use when they're quoting resources in their information essays or in their argumentative essays. So blank explains blank. Based on studies done by blank, blank points out blank, blank proves that blank, according to blank, blank suggests. So these are just ways that kids can, so like if I model, I would use a couple of these myself, and then I would have the kids use them again, use the same ones that I modeled, but in their own, using their own examples. So it was really fun because I basically made up, like I used my kids' names. I said stuff like Dr. Jones, who works at Harvard University, explains that 75% of children who play video games do better in math. And I was like using my kids' names and calling them doctors and professors and journalists, and they loved it. And then they called each other journalists and professors too when they were practicing. So I loved using sentence stems to model with my students, and then using my students' own writing to model. Like if I see a student is using a skill that I'm about to teach, use their writing. I make it anonymous. I hope I have a very okay signal for you. Can you hear me? I'm not seeing many comments, so I'm just wondering if maybe I'm struggling with signal, and I'm running out of time. So this is what I say to my students. I say, from time to time, I may use your writing strategies to teach the class, because I think what you are trying out is something everyone should try. Thank you so much, Miss Berry Hill. Okay. When I do this, it is very important to remember not, so a lot of times when you use students' writings, they're always trying to like, it's a guessing game, like, ooh, whose is that? And they're like, oh, I think it's this person's, and it totally distracts from the lesson. And so what I say is, you know, when I do this, when I use your writing, I always do it in a positive way. Like I never put a kid's writing down and I'm like, oh, let's analyze this and critique it and like say negative things about it. I always use it in a positive light. And then it's anonymous. So I say, when I do this, it is very important to remember not to try to guess who, oh, thank you so much. Not to try and guess whose writing it is. It's the writer's choice whether or not they want to announce that the writing is theirs. It is always the writer's choice to publish and share, and we must respect that. And so I say that to my kids, like, you know, this is not like a guessing game. We're using this person's skill, and usually the kids want to announce that it's theirs because they're proud, and so they choose to share it. Oh yeah, that was mine. And so and then another way to model different skills in your mini lessons, of course, is mentor text. And one time I did a Periscope and someone asked what a mentor text was. So mentor texts are any published articles, stories, editorials, or books within the genre of writing you are teaching that can support writers in their work within that genre. And I actually have a list of my favorite mentor texts for elementary and secondary on my site, amandarightnow.com. So narrative writing, and then information writing, and then argumentative writing. This is a really cool website that I just recently discovered called Tween Tribune. It has articles written like at different lexile levels. It's really cool. Of course, they have a pop-up. So you can go to Tween Tribune, and there's different grade level articles on here, it's really neat. Topics and lexile levels. Yeah, and I don't think it costs any money. Yeah, for older and younger. Yeah, this is really awesome site. I mean, just look at all the 72 pages of articles here. So really cool website, and I put that here if you're interested. So mentor texts are really powerful ways, but what you do is you read the text like during reading time, and you read the whole thing, and then you use only part of it during your mini lesson, because your mini lesson, you know, as you know, should only be you know, about 5 to 10 minutes, and sometimes mine go long too. But we have to be less long-winded, where teachers are so long-winded. I really appreciate all of you coming and sharing. I hope this was helpful, and I will not see you next Thursday. I will see you the following Thursday. So I will now be periscoping on iTeach TV Network the first and third Thursdays of every month. So I hope that you come back for part 3. I hope you visit my website, and thank you all writing teachers for coming, and replay viewers for replaying. Go to iTeach TV Network for all sorts of other replays from many, many, many talented people. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.